Good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 5 of Go Healthy. I hope everyone's had a good Monday so far. As you can see, if you are submitting uh, your tracker, if you are submitting your tracker, definitely you want to make sure you are submitting that today, okay? Um, does anybody have any questions or comments related to the tracker or anything? Again, it is optional. Okay. And as you know as well, we do have the chat feature available that you can send any chats in the chat box. Of course, you can always unmute your mic as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started for the day. What we're going to do is we'll start off like we do every week, discussing the success that you had from last week's action steps. We will then get to the topic of the day, which is called calorie density. We'll specifically define what calorie density is. And if you do recall, we gave you a definition in the introduction week. And we then are going to define specifically what the high calorie dense foods are versus the low calorie dense foods. And we're then going to give you some examples of calorie dense foods. All right. After that, we'll assign the week action steps. We will then introduce next week's topic and next week's tracker. Okay. And of course, we will answer any questions that you might have. So, if you do recall, we talked last week about applying all of the fundamentals every single day to really maximize your success. Remember, the first one is using that guide to smart food choices to help you select the foods within all the 5 food groups to help control your calories. Okay, remember we had the green foods or the anytime foods, we had the yellow or portion control foods, and we had the red or the occasional foods. All right. Then, on a daily basis to maximize your success, is your fruits and vegetables. Of course, as you know, for this program, we've set a goal of 5 servings per day of fruits and vegetables, uh, using the My Plate tips to give you guidance on choosing the right types with fruits, focusing on whole fruits and vegetables, varying your vegetables. Of course, if you're not quite at reaching 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, it's not quite attainable for you. Just meet where you are and work yourself up to that. Okay. And then we had the water intake, and we set the general goal of at least 64 ounces of water per day. Again, if that's not quite attainable for you, you just keep working toward that goal. And another way to maximize your success is also to really think about your proteins, your grains, and your dairy, making sure you're not only controlling the quantity of those, but you're controlling the quality. And that's where you can really apply those My Plate tips for these 3 food groups to help you make those swaps. Remember, protein foods was varying your protein routine, grains was making half your grains whole grains, and dairy products is moved to low fat or fat free. Okay. And then you had that option of meal replacements, which, if you do recall, was the frozen entrees, the protein shakes, and the nutrition bars. One, but no more than 2 a day if you do choose to use meal replacements. And then, lastly, another way to really maximize your success is physical activity, which we have set the goal of at least 30 to 60 minutes per day. Remember the kind of the slogan, anything that gets you moving counts, or move your weight can count toward that physical activity. Which brings me to one question here. What fundamental or fundamentals have you improved or increased since last week's class? So, what fundamental or fundamentals have you improved on or increased since last week's class? And I got a chat from CJ. Water seems more difficult than at first. And is that when you first started drinking water? Maybe a little clarification there. So if anybody wants to chime in, what fundamental or fundamentals have you improved on or increased since last week's class? Again, you can unmute your mic. You can send me a chat. Okay. All right. Jim said since last week's, he's improved on or increased the fruits and the fresh veggies. Jennifer says she went to the rec center 3 days. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Well, if you are typing that chat and if it appears in the chat box, I will grab it when it pops up. So again, when you really think about maximizing your success, it's every single day applying these fundamentals. Okay. Um, and CJ says, I guess that's the relation to water. Seems like I'm getting where it seems I'm getting too much at times and not enough at other times. Okay. Yep. And I think that's where you take a general assessment of that, uh, which will help you kind of answer maybe that question for you. Okay. All right, then. Well, we will go ahead and move on to your topic of the day, which is calorie density. Calorie density. And you'll see what it means by where it says eat more, weigh less. Eat more, weigh less. Now, calorie density. If you do remember in the introduction class, calorie density is the number of calories in a specific weight or volume of food. And that is the basis of the guide to smart food choices. Again, your anytime foods, your portion control foods, and your occasional foods. So your anytime foods are those green foods, are those foods that have a low amount of calories per weight or volume of food. So you can eat a larger quantity of those. And get less calories. Whereas the portion control or the yellow foods are the ones that the calorie intake does go up based on the weight or the volume of the food. That's why you really have to control the portions of those. And those occasional foods are the ones that the calorie content is really high based on its weight or the volume of the food. That's why you really have to limit your intake of those. And when you are consuming those, really cut down the portions of those. Okay. All right. And we got one more chat that popped up based on our action step from last week. Michael said, doing better on the fruits and veggies, making an effort to go to the gym at least 3 days per week. Good. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to see the difference between high calorie dense foods and low calorie dense foods. So let's look at the difference, okay? So let's specifically now look at the high calorie dense foods. These are the ones that contain a high number of calories in a small amount of food. Again, they contain a high number of calories in a small amount of food. Typically, these are your highly processed foods, so foods that have been changed from its original state and have added fat and added sugars. So that's two things we want to reduce in our diet. That would be fatty meats, that would be fried foods, sugary desserts and sugary beverages, processed snacks, and alcohol, which is beer, wine, and liquor. Of course, you can see from the picture there, which I think I showed you all last week, you see the donut and you see the apple. Okay, put those on a scale based on its volume there, they weigh the same. But you see the difference in calories and nutritional value. The donut has 350 calories, but the green apple, which is the same volume of that, is 50 calories. The green apple has vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber. Okay. Whereas, and water, by the way, that's important. A lot of fruit has a lot of water. Whereas the donut is packed with added sugar and zero water content, zero fiber, etc. Okay. So that donut would be considered a high calorie dense food. Again, these are the ones that are found in your occasional food column of that guide to smart food choices. Now, it's important to note that you do have some high calorie dense foods that are very nutritious, which includes dried fruit, avocados, nuts and seeds, and olive and oils such as olive oil, canola oil, any of those liquid oils, kind of plant-based oils. They're still considered high calorie dense because they have a lot of calories per amount of our volume or amount of that. So that's where you really have to practice portion control. Okay. You really have to practice portion control. So your goal is to limit high calorie dense foods and beverages. Now, I got a chat from CJ. Sugar alcohols, are they a no-no? Well, according to the FDA, sugar alcohols are considered to be relatively safe when consumed in moderate amounts. Plus, sugar alcohols will have very, very little calories. Um, Plus, they really don't cause that much of a spike on your blood sugar. So if somebody has diabetes, sugar alcohols don't have quite the effect on your blood sugar as regular sugar. Yeah, good question. All right, so any other questions? Any questions on the high calorie dense foods? Okay. All right, now let's go to the low calorie dense foods. Now, your low calorie dense foods are the ones that contain a low amount of calories in a large amount of food. That means you can eat more of these foods and you can feel fuller on fewer calories. Okay. So, examples here, these are typically ones that are your whole foods, your unprocessed foods, which would be your whole fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, your lean animal proteins, your low fat, fat free dairy products without added sugars, and your unsweetened beverages. Okay, your unsweetened beverages. Of course, if you see the example again of that Granny Smith apple and that donut, same volume of food, 300 calorie difference, but the green apple packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber, water, the donut, not. Lots of added sugar. Okay. Now, your low calorie dense foods are typically found in that anytime column of your guide to smart food choices. So your goal would be to consume more low calorie dense foods and beverages. Again, when you do that, like it said up at the top, you're going to eat more and you're going to feel fuller on fewer calories. Okay. So before we look at kind of some examples of low calorie, high calorie dense foods, we got two slides, kind of examples. Any questions or comments? Examples of lean animal proteins. Well, you can break it down. You've got your meats, which is like your beef, pork, and lamb. Uh, with your beef, pork, and lamb, you want to make sure you focus maybe on a tender loin, or if it's ground beef, you want to get at least, maybe 93%, if not leaner, ground beef. You look at poultry. Poultry can be lean just as long as you remove the skin or you don't eat the skin. You have fish, which is a great lean animal protein. Of course, it's also how you cook it. Do you bake it? Do you grill it? Or do you fry it? Um, and of course, you have things like eggs as well, which would be a protein source too, animal protein. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we get to some examples? And also under poultry, you can throw in turkey. All right. So, two slides here. The first slide here, we're going to show you examples of foods that have the same calories, but a different volume. Well, on the next slide here, the next slide after that, we're going to show you an example of the same volume of food, but different calories. Okay. So let's show you examples of the same calories, but different volume. Okay, so it's showing you four things from left to right. It's showing you 1¼ cup of blueberries would give you 100 calories. You see here broccoli, 5 cups of broccoli gives you 100 calories. 15 almonds give you 100 calories. 2 slices of bacon give you 100 calories. So my question is, which two of these are considered low calorie dense foods? Low calorie dense foods.
Blueberries and broccoli.
That's right. You get the prize. I don't know what the prize is, but you get the prize. Exactly. No, Jason, I can't say bacon. So, yes, your blueberries and your broccoli are considered your low calorie dense food. You get a massive amount of food with relatively low calories. Okay. That's the concept with calorie density of foods. Okay. You can feel full on fewer calories. Now, I think obviously we know the answer to this. Which of these two are high calorie dense foods? One is healthy, one is not considered healthy. Which two are the high calorie dense foods? One healthy, one not.
Almonds are healthy, bacon is not.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so the almonds are still a high calorie dense food. Again, they have a lot of calories in a small amount of food, but they are extremely healthy. That's why you have to practice portion control with your nuts and your seeds. Now, the bacon has a lot of that harmful saturated fat, a lot of cholesterol, a lot of calories when you base it on the weight or the volume of food. Yes, Miss Pam, she is killing it. Yeah, good job. So those are examples of same calories but a different volume of food. So let's look at the next slide here, which is the same volume of food, but you're going to see their difference in calories. Okay. Yep. Let me go one at a time here. Okay. Just wanted to show you the difference here. The same volume of food, but they're different calories. So this is how you can actually play with your own plate of food to get the same volume of food, but you really can adjust the calories. Okay. You see the plate to the left, it's got rice. It's got looks like it's got maybe brown rice. It's got mixed vegetables in it, and then it's got chicken. Okay, you can see the volume there. Now, by just adjusting the volume of that plate of that same type of food, you can reduce it by almost 400 calories. You can see that they increase their veggies, they decrease the brown rice, and they They kept the chicken, maybe one less piece to make it probably about 4 ounces. So again, they're getting that same volume of food, but by making those adjustments on the types of food in that volume, they can change the calories. Okay. Let me show you another example. I've got 3 examples. Here's another one to the left. So you got rice, and that's probably brown rice. It might be white rice. Okay. And you see the chicken, you see some of the veggies in there, 780 calories. Hey, but you want to keep the same volume of food. You just want to reduce the calories. Well, what you do, you cut down on that brown rice and you up those veggies, keep that other protein with the chicken, and you saved 380 calories. Again, same volume of food, different calories by just making those adjustments. Okay, one more. Okay, one more. So you see to the left here, and this is your red meat, and most likely it looks like it's probably like a tenderloin, so a leaner cut of red meat. Um, so you can see on the left here, 870 calories. They've got 2 pieces of red meat, and I think those are probably about 3 ounces each. So that's probably 6 ounces of a fillet. They've got a little bitty side section of some veggies, but then half of their plate is filled with grains. Okay. Now they want to keep the volume, reduce the calories. They want to cut it down by almost 400 calories. Well, they can do that by dropping it down to only 3 ounces of that tenderloin, a small amount, probably a quarter cup, a half a cup at the most of that grain, and half of the plate of all the veggies. So again, same volume of food, different calories. Okay. So I think those were great examples of when you look at the calorie density of food. So it's the amount of calories in a certain weight or volume of food. Okay. So again, this is a great example of you can eat more with fewer calories and feel full. Okay. Any questions or comments uh, with that before we get to your week's action steps? CJ, you're hungry now? Well, if you go eat, use this calorie density example to help keep those calories low, but still get a good volume of food. All right. Okay. So that takes us to your week's action steps. Your week's action steps is to consume more of your foods from that anytime or green column. And you can see when you relate it to a traffic light, that means go. Consume moderate amounts of your foods from that portion controlled or that yellow category. You can see on the traffic light approach, yellow means to slow down, be cautious, control portions, and then lastly, consume very limited amounts of your foods from that occasional or red category. You can see on the traffic light example, that means to whoa, put on the brakes. Okay. So that's your action steps for the week. Also, adding into this is still making sure you're applying those fundamentals every single day. Again, if you're not quite at those goals that we have set, you just keep working on those. Okay. And then next week's topic, and this is actually not in your booklet, I'm going to add to this. Uh, and I will be sending you in the next several days some additional information about reading food labels that will help you. I will be sending that to you in the next few days. But we're going to be looking at reading or decoding food labels, which I think is very important to help you make choices, especially when you are shopping. Okay, so that's going to be next week's topic. Of course, the tracker, of course, ignore that required. I failed to edit that. It's optional for you. And I will be emailing that out to you over the next few days. And of course, I apologize last week for not recording. I just totally went blank, but I did record today's. And so in the next few days, I will send out the recording. So does anybody have any questions or comments before we go for the day? Anyone? All right. Well, if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me over email. Uh, Appreciate all the comments here. Next week when we meet, when we talk about the week's action steps from today, maybe you can give me some examples of how you change that calorie density of your meals. Would be great examples. You don't have to give me calorie numbers. You can just give me a basic example. All right. Well, y'all have a great night, a great rest of the week, and I will see you all next Monday night. Thank y'all.
Thank you much.
You're welcome.